Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. There are a few curious things about this motion. One of them is we just debated the same subject last week. We've had the G7, we've had the delay to step 4 of the lockdown, but we're talking about the same thing. It's important, so I don't mind that. The other thing that's curious about it is that we've been told now for quite a while that Labour supports the Kevin Collins plan, except in the motion they ask for a copy of the plan, which shows that they don't actually know the detail of what's in it, but they're telling us they support it anyway. Now, it's tempting, because it's the same subject area, to give the same speech I gave last week, and I won't do that. I'll just summarise and say I paid tribute to teachers nationwide for the role they've played during COVID. I said I supported the government's £3 billion investment so far in catch-up. I said I am a supporter of the extended school day, actually probably for longer than half an hour a day, but I'd like to see the evidence before that, and it will cost money. And I reminded the House that while the Labour Party is very noisy when it comes to calling for more money, they are silent when their allies at the National Education Union put obstacle after obstacle in the way of children returning during the pandemic. Now, I have read Labour's plan, so-called plan, and what's striking is how much of it the government's already doing. More money into mental health, the government's doing that. More money into tutoring, the government's doing that. More money into teacher training, the government's doing that. There are differences, but there are also omissions, like where the money would come from and how they'd evaluate the success of it. But the particular motion today says that they would like emails and text messages and correspondence between ministers, their officials and their advisers. Now, it's hard to know how many children would catch up as a result of that release. But I happen to believe that people should be able to give candid advice privately and that it should stay private. If I didn't believe that, though, I'd like to see some correspondence between shadow ministers and their advisers, because I'd like to understand why it took them so long to say that schools were safe. I'd like to understand why they can never criticise their friends at the NEU. I'd like to understand why they said we should go against the advice of the JCVI, not vaccinate by age, but just pick teachers, no other professions, no retail workers or anybody else, just teachers, to vaccinate because the union said that we should do so. I'd like to understand why they still can't say if they support a permanent extension to the school day. And I would like to understand whether the party that 18 months ago told the country we should abolish Ofsted, abolish SATs, abolish academies, when we know how much they've helped disadvantaged children, will stand with us in defending exams and league tables and inspections for the role they play. But because I believe that private advice should stay private on both sides, Labour will be spared that embarrassment.